Greetings everyone, welcome back to Taoist Magick. I would just like to say I've started a Tumblr blog for Taoist occultism. It's very new, but I've already uploaded plenty of really beautiful and stunning ritual pictures, as well as information about Tao magic in general. Lately, I've been realizing the importance of uploading occult-related things outside of just making videos on YouTube. There are definitely people out there who prefer reading than listening or watching. Now that I have the blog, everyone should be appeased. So please do check it out. In other news, I have just ordered a brand new Kongming feather fan. Not to give too much away, but it's a dark fan with 3 layers of feathers and a pre-heaven sequence Bagua on the handle. You all know me and how obsessed I am with fans thanks to Zhuge Liang, so as soon as it arrives, I'll be using it on a daily basis. In today's video, I want to talk about a subject that has never really come up on this channel before. Seeing spirits, ghosts, demons, entities by using Taoist methods and some of my own experiences based on what I've seen. Personally, I tend to focus on magic that usually involves practices like feng shui, weather magic, star stepping, divination, wealth magic, healing, etc. These are all practices that you do whilst you are awake, usually. But there are more spirit-based practices that are internal, like astral projection, dream workings such as predicting events while you sleep, telepathy, going into deep trances while speaking to entities, having visions. In Taoism, when a person sees spirits that others cannot see, we say that the person has Yin Eyes. So you can see ghosts, wandering spirits, lost souls, demons. Those who can see immortals, gods and deities and entities that are considered higher are known to have Yang Eyes. This is generally a more pleasant experience, but it can still be quite shocking. The funny thing is, most of the time, you do not need to practice ritual magic to attract spirits to you. Most of you watching this will have entities that live in your house, or you will have spirits that attach themselves to you or an item that you possess. The problem isn't the absence of these spirits, it's the fact that you can't see them at this time. Take it from me, there is a spirit that is either in your house or on your land right now. Whether it is benevolent or destructive is for you to find out. Most of the time, you won't actually know if they are there because they operate outside of the visible light spectrum. Our ordinary eyes cannot decode them in this reality, but they may manifest in other ways. Have you ever smelt something like a strong perfume that seems out of place? Have you ever heard something but cannot explain what it is or where it's coming from? It sounds like it's coming from within your mind. Have you ever noticed a sudden drop or rise in temperature only in one room or one corner? And the classic example is the feeling of being watched. Like when you walk into a room and you feel 100 eyes watching you. That uneasy, nervous, unsettling feeling, but you can't explain it. These are the basic signs of entities that are present within your home. I always like to draw comparisons between spirits and the frequencies of wireless internet. We all have Wi-Fi traveling through our rooms and homes right now. We can't actually see that it's there, but it is. Occasionally, spirits will reveal themselves to us through incense smoke, electrical disturbances, lights going on and off. If they do this, it means they want you to know we are here. But in most cases, you won't get such obvious signs. If you can see them, they will know that you can see them. After knowing this, sometimes a ghost may try to attach itself to you because they crave life, they want to be reborn. In other cases, they require assistance, or sometimes they are simply trying to protect their land. If you have Yin Eyes, you'll tend to see lost souls and what the Taoists call Yao Guai. These are Taoist demons that have magical abilities. In China, it is believed that some humans are born with Yin Yang eyes, able to sense both types of energy, but as they age and grow past the point of about 2 to 3 years old, they will lose this ability naturally. This is why you'll often see babies crying and looking stressed for no apparent reason. It's also because they have the ability to sense something in the room with them in a much more powerful way than adults. This is why a lot of very young people have imaginary friends. They will talk to these friends and treat them like they are really there because in their eyes they are really there. Think about how vivid your imagination was when you were younger. Only a very small select percentage will keep this gift as they age. Those who have yin-yang eyes in adulthood usually pursue a path of spirituality, becoming magicians or mediums or exorcists. Some have the belief that certain types of people are naturally drawn to certain currents of energy. Some believe that women, being closer to the yin energies, will tend to see yin spirits, and men, of course, being more yang, will see more angelic spirits. A lot of old beliefs center around women sometimes being the only gender that can actually see spirits at all. Others say it depends very much on one's bazi, which is a Chinese astrological birth chart of the year, the month, the day, and the hour, and how they relate to the earthly branches and heavenly stems. Masters will say that if a person lacks the fire element, if they are born in the autumn and winter months, this can make you very susceptible to spiritual activity. Whilst I agree with this, personally I think there's a bit more to it. I think the most important aspect is the type of person that you are. Are you a yin or yang person? I'll ask you a few basic questions that might give you some insight. Do you enjoy the night more than the day? Do you feel more comfortable under moonlight or sunlight? Do you find solace in darkness or lightness? Do you enjoy warm weather or cold weather? Are you more drawn to demonic and ghostly forces than celestial angelic forces? By now, you should start to see what type of energies fit your nature. That's not to say if you are a yin person, you can't work with yang. No, it just means that yin gravitates to you and you are drawn to it. Like attracts like. However, this gift can become a massive burden for a lot of people. It is my own personal opinion that many of the people who are diagnosed with mental illnesses are not actually ill. In some cases they are, absolutely, no doubt, but in other cases, the people who say they hear voices, the average businessman, the normal everyday family man and woman who just wants to live in peace, when they say they see things they can't explain, they are just unable to close their connection to the ethereal realms. This can be deeply tormenting and agonizing. In China, these people will seek out assistance at the local Taoist temple to have their eyes shut by a procedure known as sealing the eyes. A Daoshi, a Taoist priest, may sprinkle consecrated water onto a person's forehead, just in the center of their physical eyes. If a person has had the ability to see ghosts and spirits for many years, it usually takes several attempts by the priest to seal it. Do you know how many people I've met that have expressed interest in opening their yin and yang eyes, only to deeply regret it later on? I tell them, if they want this to happen, let the idea sit for a while in the mind, for at least a couple of weeks. If the answer is still yes, I want to see, then so be it. I will say, no amount of research, reading or studying can prepare you for the actual experience. Some Taoist masters will say, just because you can see the spirits and they can see you, doesn't mean they can hurt you. They can only scare you. Others say they absolutely can mess with you, so I personally recommend making preparations before you decide to open your eyes to spirits. There are many ways to protect yourself from negative forces. I tend to use the famous Taoist peachwood sword. It must be made from real peachwood, preferably from the sacred Taoist mountain of Long Hu. It is said that no demon can withstand a direct strike from one of these spiritual weapons. If you plan on doing this, keep the sword on standby. Keep it with you in the room, and at least it's there if you need it. What we occultists seem to forget is that most of us enjoy seeing these spirits because we resonate with the dark aspects of nature. You have to understand that not everyone is prepared to open this door. Some people just don't want to see, and we must respect their wishes. Of course, with me, I do very much want to see. Sadly, I lost this ability to sense things naturally as I grew older, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this may be in the same boat, but there are ways to reopen these eyes if you really want to. I reopened mine about 10 or 12 years ago by using Taoist Magick. I practiced a spell to open my eyes to the spirit realms by burning a food talisman known as the Yin Yang Eyes opening talisman. I burnt it, collected the ashes in a cup of water, I drank the water, and the rest I rubbed on my eyes. So rubbing sacred talismanic water on the eyes has a powerful effect for opening them. I also recited some mantras and incantations. I can't quite remember how long it took before I started to experience strange things. It might have only been a few days, but I do remember the first entity that I saw whilst I was awake. I wasn't dreaming, I wasn't tired. I was sitting, reading a book, and I noticed a weird noise that sounded to me like it was coming from outside. It sounded like very faint, distant yelling. I also noticed the temperature in one corner of the room dropped suddenly. Not the whole room, just this one area where I was sitting. So I got up to turn the fireplace on, and the fireplace would not light. I've never had this problem before. It always lit the first time, but here I kept trying and it wouldn't work. I must have tried for about 10 minutes straight. By this point, the corner felt freezing cold. It was like sitting outside. The strange thing was, this was in summer, so it was warmer outside than in this corner in my house. So now I'm thinking this is very bizarre. And this noise just started gradually getting louder. Sounded like someone screaming in the distance. So I moved my chair to the other end of the room and I sat down, I warmed up a bit, and I was now facing the cold corner where I had moved from. It was there where I saw a shadowy figure stuck halfway up the wall. It wasn't on the ceiling, it was like a spider on a web. Very sinister presence. I can only describe it like a dark creature with lots of sharp hairs on its body, like little needles all over its body. It didn't even have a face that I could see. It was just a mass of black spikes, like something out of a nightmare. At this point, I was not aware of different types of Taoist spirits or Chinese spirits, but I knew instinctively this creature was certainly a yin spirit, and it was aggressive, angry, and tortured. I knew that it wanted to harm me. It was screaming right at me, so I got extremely scared. I broke out into a cold sweat and ran out of the room. When I came back, it had disappeared. Now, the room itself was dark. I had the curtains closed, and it wasn't a bright place, but I know what I saw. I'm not the type of person to hallucinate, and I saw this spirit on and off for years after this experience. I saw it a handful of times whilst I was on my altar of the 7 stars. It never actually came on the altar, but it sat up in the trees at night. When I practiced rituals during the evening, I would see this shadowy, spiky form just sitting there watching me from afar. You can see in the picture that I've got displayed at the moment, that tree in the background was the tree where this entity always sat. For some reason, it never actually came on the altar because the altar is considered holy ground, so to speak, and I'm very selective about the spirits that I work with on there. But I haven't actually seen this entity recently. After seeing it pop up in other places, I did some research on Chinese ghosts, and I managed to find a match pretty quickly. The creature that I saw belongs to a type of monster known as a needle hair ghost. The legends say these needles don't just hurt other people, they actually hurt the ghost itself, so that explains why I heard the screaming in my mind. I also came to the conclusion that there are quite a few needle hair ghosts, so all those experiences I had, I probably saw different spirits, but they were the same type of entity. There is another Chinese type of ghost. I haven't actually seen this one myself, but in the Taoist Facebook group that I run, there's a person in that group who's seen what is known as a needle mouth ghost. These are spirits that have mouths as small as needles, so they can only drink and eat tiny amounts, and therefore they can never satisfy their hunger and thirst. So you can see a lot of these spirits have a consistent thread going through them. They are all suffering, and depending on what school of Taoism that you subscribe to, some people believe they are suffering as spirits because they were evil as mortals. They've done wicked things on earth, and now they are paying the price. Others believe that on the 7th lunar calendar month, the doors to the underworld open up. This is known as Ghost Month, and during this time, spirits will revisit the earth looking for food and entertainment, and living relatives of a ghost should always place food, offerings such as joss paper, incense, burning spirit money, etc., so the ghosts can feed, therefore help ease the suffering of the dead. Some of these ghosts can be highly aggressive if they aren't honored correctly, and they may attack the living. It's known famously as the Hungry Ghost Festival. It's a massive cultural event in East Asia and is a form of ancestral worship and veneration of the dead. I'll cover this fully in a future video. Most people who encounter yin spirits will immediately try to banish them or destroy them. I do have a slightly different opinion myself. I tend to see a lot of these ghosts as victims rather than just evil monsters. So rather than simply reaching for your peachwood sword at the first sign of trouble, I will try to set the spirit free by honoring it or feeding it. Notice how I said try, because it doesn't always work. Sometimes the entities are too far gone, or they are too dangerous for the magician to try and help them. If liberating the soul of the ghost isn't possible, then you can eliminate it. You don't just see things whilst you are awake. When you have your eyes opened, your dreams will drastically change. Some people say they have a massive increase in nightmares and night terrors, being visited by Chinese spirits known as nightmare ghosts. These creatures were said to have been frauds when they were mortals, so think of charlatans, bullshit faith healers, phony preachers and the like, and they can appear in people's dreams after they die to terrorize them. Others say when the eyes are open, the dreams can be beautiful. So to balance out the good with the bad, I have also seen many wonderful angelic kinds of entities, such as immortals. When you have young eyes, you may see immortals manifest as rays of bright light, multicolored clouds that look like small rainbows. At least that's how I see them. Please watch my ongoing series on Taoist Immortals to find out more. You might start to see white-colored birds popping up in your daily life as well. Obviously, most of you will know this, as synchronicity. So it's not all bad. It really depends on where you're at, I think, mentally and spiritually, and what you're open to as a person and what your personality naturally is. So I hope you've enjoyed this dark journey into the realm of Chinese ghosts. I'll be back soon with more Taoist magic. Take care.